Hey everybody, Barry here again. Got some work done yesterday, ran into some issues yesterday, but got a plan.
Got something figured out. So what we're gonna do is offset the engine a couple inches to the passenger side. That way it'll go through the
Stone go compartment, but only on the passenger side seat, so that I can make a drive shaft tunnel, and it'll only affect the passenger side stone go seat. Like I won't be able to go down to the floor, but the driver's side still will be able to. So that's what I'm gonna do.
And I just noticed that this tunnel here that was originally for the exhaust is offset to the same side. So that'll be a lot better for my transmission to sit in there. Looks like it's offset by, I don't know, 2 or 3, 4 inches probably. So I'm gonna lay the engine down in place,
See what kind of room we got, and see if we're in any better shape than we were yesterday. Well, after a lot of messing around, I'm a lot more confident that this is going to fit. Not without some modification, but it'll fit.
so we're about right here. It does have to come up about 4 inches on the tail shaft. And I'll show you under here. And my issue right now is the tail shaft is hitting the cross member up here. Not a big deal. This is actually in under the center console. This hole right here is where the spare tire mount goes. That spot is right here. And we're back like 8 or 10 inches from that, I think. So it's gonna be around up here where the transmission comes out through, and I can do a small hump and just have the drive shaft go down. So it's looking a lot better. I just gotta get some cutting done. As for the engine situated forward and back, we're still good. I am gonna cut our cradle down here some more to get the engine to move ahead and get off the firewall.
Other than that, we're good. So I'm gonna haul the passenger seat out, see how much firewall we can move.
I got both seats taken out. Now it's time to pull the carpet back. Oh, that's dusty. I'm only going to pull it back far enough to get at the firewall. Floor weight's gotta go. Well, that's not too scary looking at all. It's just metal. That's pretty much it. Old business cards and bobby pins. Stuff gets lost in these vans everywhere. So basically, the airbag module I'll have to relocate. This yaw sensor here, I think it is, that gotta go. And then we'll go ahead and take off these brackets here. And my mail key. That thing's been missing for like 2 months. And then basically cut around the perimeter right here. I'm going to try to stay in under where the center console thing is. The center console sits right there. Well, pretty much. It's not fitting perfect at the moment, but so that's about where it sits. We're like 3 inches behind this spare tire hole, and that's what I'm gonna use for my reference for a little bit. So basically, I think I'm just gonna cut right on around about 1 inch inside of this. That way we won't see it. And my shifter is probably gonna come out through right here. I am gonna have to do a shifter relocation. It's not a big deal because I already have one made. I'll just have to modify it a little bit. Nothing to it. Let's get rid of this sound deadener on both sides because we don't want that catching fire. And slice her open. Well, it took some work, but I got everything out. It's looking good. Not very much in the way, actually, like at all. It's kind of nice that everything sits so high up off the floor. I think what I'm going to cut is go around the perimeter of this mount here. It'd be nice not to have the floor itself modified. When I roll the carpet back over, everything looks factory. If I have to do a little bit of a trans tunnel or something like that, it's not a big deal, or like a drive shaft tunnel, because I'll just use a half moon shape and then the carpet will just sort of mold over to that anyway, so it's not a big deal. Sometimes a little persuasion is all you need. I'm not sure if I'm going to have to go higher up here or not. If I do, doesn't matter. I will, because it's under the dash. I feel like I may have to, but I'm not quite sure yet, so I'm not going to get ahead of myself. You can't have a bad day with a Sawzall and a plasma cutter. It's just not possible. Doesn't look like a lot, but it's going to make a huge difference. Let's try to set this thing down in there again and see what we got. I'm a whole lot less stressed out right now. Look how high the engine sits. It's above the cross member. Well, this radiator support one. You can't see the bell housing below the radiator support. It's not touching the firewall. And look where the transmission is. It's in the tunnel. There's piles of room. The only thing I can see is the tail shaft is sort of level with the floor, which is not a major deal, mainly because I can just tilt the tail shaft down a little bit. It's not gonna hurt, as long as we don't go over our angle. But if I need to, I will still lower the cradle a little bit. I don't think I'm gonna need to anymore. I'd rather lift the engine up and have it tilted back a little bit. That way all I gotta do is tilt my pinion up to match, and the dry shaft will either have a couple degree angle on it or be, I don't know, pretty well straight. I don't think it'll be too serious. Look at that thing. My God. I love it. I'm gonna detail the engine bay, obviously before I get too far into this, or after I get the metal work done, that kind of thing. I'll clean it all up, and I don't need to paint anything. Look at this thing. It's absolutely rust free. There's nothing anywhere, just dirt. So it just needs a good cleaning. Also, I'm gonna clean up what's on the engine for accessories. I know I've sort of been disregarding that so far. Water pump's gross, crank pulley's gross, alternator, all that stuff. This engine bay is gonna shine when I'm done.
I had the same thing done to the rat rod. I did it as clean as I could. I painted the whole inside of it. When you take the hood off, it was beautiful. So I really like to see that here too. I don't want it to look garbagey. But I don't know how high I gotta be, but as of right there, I can almost use a truck intake. And by using a truck intake, I could use my 80 pound per hour injectors. And that would make this turbo build go a whole lot smoother. I jacked it up really high, and the transmission is actually up into the floor, which again, not a major deal. I'd prefer not to have it like that and not have to do a drive shaft tunnel, but if it comes down to it, it is what it is. That would lift the engine a lot higher in the engine bay and way up over the cross member. So basically my next step is going to be to bolt in this cradle. Get the rack bolted on, see what kind of room I got. I need about an inch above the rack, 1.5 inches, so I can make my oil pan. And I don't want the bottom of the oil pan to be perfect level. That way oil will hold up in that spot of the pan, and it may never, but I feel like it could cause a restriction for oil coming down from the top end, collecting here and then sort of backing up and splashing around the crank, and I don't want that because that's robs power and it's no good. So I would like to have my oil pan taper toward the front so oil is always running in the front of the pan. I'm gonna go ahead and bolt this in while the engine is in here. And if it comes down to it, I'll just leave the engine in it for the weekend. And then I can start making mounts when I'm ready.
Fun.
We're really, really close,
But I got to cut some more out of the cradle. You can see here that the bell housing is like touching it, and we're off by 1 inch or so on these bolts. Not a big deal, nothing too serious. Just got to make some more room right here. Also, the engine's got to go quite a bit higher, so I may have to cut into the firewall. Also not a big deal because it's up in the dash. Really don't care. I got this much cut out. And thirdly is my transmission needs to come up through the floor a bit higher, so I may have to cut back here further. Didn't necessarily want to, but I may have to. So I'm going to go ahead, pull this thing back out, chop up that cradle a little bit more, pull some more metal out of it, and then I'm pretty much going to finish up for tonight. See how it goes. I got this thing butchered, but it needs some more butchering. And the more I look at it, the more I see that this doesn't need to be here. This is going to be plenty strong with its 3 points of contact, stringers going up toward the front, and another cross member. What I'm going to do is cut these brackets off here, mount them directly to this pipe alone. That will get us ahead like 5 inches. That's exactly the space that I need to pull this engine ahead. As for radiators, I don't care about any of that. That's an after thing. Does not matter. I need to get this engine sit in place. And I need it to sit correctly so that I don't have to destroy the interior because the engine sits too high or too far forward or back or whatever. So, yeah, it's nothing safe now. It's all getting under the knife. Now, in saying this, it's going to be strong. You need not worry. I'm going to use either 1/8 inch or 3/16 plate all the way back here, completely welded. Same with right here. And when I get up toward the front, I'll also brace that up really well. And I would say I'll probably use another piece of 2-inch inside diameter pipe up further. And for anyone who's just picking up where we're starting now, this is not going to be holding any weight. So don't be like, oh man, he's going to have an engine set on that and it's going to all buckle to pieces. The only thing this is holding is the control arms in the rack. The control arms have dual points of contact. One right here next to the rear control arm bushing. One right here directly off of the front control arm bushing. And then we've got our crossbar here to take any pivotal force. It's going to be perfectly fine.
I shouldn't be allowed to have power tools. I might be the craziest person I know, but this is gonna work. This is gonna be perfect. Got a pile of room. I didn't cut these off here with any measurements or anything, so I left them way longer than they need to be, just so I can, you know, cut them, straighten them out, everything, make sure there's enough room for the rack mounting pad itself to have hole contact. And that's all we need. I'll weld another tab coming down to the frame rail here. Of course, I still have to finish weld all this here. Then I'll plate this in, weld it.
This metal is fairly thick anyway. It's 1/8 inch probably in places, a little bit less.
I feel really good about how this is going. I'm 200% better mood than I was this time yesterday. And that's saying a lot. Because yesterday I wasn't sure in which direction I was going to go with everything, but after talking to Cass, she cleared up a lot of stuff. We came up with some ideas and everything's a go. So this is this basically a tubular K-member now? Because there is one piece of tubing. It's not exactly race spec, is it? This will have a roll cage before you know it. Well, I got that all bolted together for tonight. And I'm gonna go ahead now and sweep the floor, get that over with, because my sinuses are itching looking at all that dust and metal from the plasma cutter and everything. So I'd like to clean this place up, start from square one, get a good grip on tomorrow or Monday, whenever I work on it again. So we're all done for tonight. Got a lot more progress done than I was hoping to with the floor, the firewall, getting the seats out of it, cutting up the cradle again. And really excited. I'm feeling a lot better than I did yesterday, so that's a good sign. And also really exciting, about 799 subscribers. Like, this close. So if you're watching, if you're not subscribed, just click it so I can get this agony over with, so I can just get to 800. So on that note, thanks for watching, everybody. Have a good night.